Coming up on this Thursday edition of Daybreak, Korea and Britain agree to double their trade and investment by 2020 and sign a number of MOUs, including ones on nuclear plant cooperation that are expected to help Korean firms secure nuclear plant exports to the British market. The government and Koreans forced into wartime labour strongly denounced Japanese business groups' claims the compensation of victims was settled in a 1965 pact, and that recent Korean court rulings on compensation could hurt bilateral economic relations. Plus, US Secretary of State John Kerry urges Israel to limit settlement buildings in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem in a bid to revive the Middle East peace talks. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Thursday, November 7th. I'm Choi Yusun in Seoul. On the second day of her state visit to Britain Wednesday, President Pak Ui Chun held a bilateral summit with British Prime Minister David Cameron. The two leaders sought to boost cooperation in the finance and nuclear energy sectors. Our presidential correspondent Oh Jin-ju followed this report from London.
Korea and Britain have set a goal of doubling bilateral trade volume and investment by the year 2020. President Pak Geun-hye and British Prime Minister David Cameron held bilateral talks at 10 Downing Street Wednesday and agreed to work towards increasing bilateral trade to $20 billion and investment to $45 billion. One of the most important sectors of cooperation was finance. The two nations agreed to hold high-level talks between financial authorities regularly and set up a private and public cooperative committee to financially support Korean and British companies hoping to enter each other's markets as well as third markets together. A total of 11 MOUs worth some $3 billion were signed in this respect.
금융산업 발전, 또 같이 그렇게 해서 제3국에 진출하는 이런 그 진출을 지원을 하는 것, 이렇게 여러 다층적인 그 기반을 구축하게 된 것을 기쁘게 생각을 합니다.
Another sector highlighted during the summit was nuclear power and energy-related technology. 7 MOUs were signed in these fields, including one on cooperation to give business opportunities to companies of both nations when bidding for nuclear power projects in third markets. In particular, Britain is pushing ahead with a project to decommission 15 nuclear power plants out of the 16 it currently has by 2023 and build 10 new reactors by 2025. The Presidential Office of Cheong-won explained that by setting up cooperative ties in the sector, Korea aims to lay the foundation to participate in this project in the future. In line with the push to boost trade and investment, the two countries set up a joint economic and trade committee and a private global CEO forum and have decided to meet every 18 months. President Pak attended the first meeting of the committee and forum and once again put emphasis on the creative economy, calling it a new engine to strengthen economic ties.
After bidding farewell to Queen Elizabeth, President Pak on Thursday will head over to Brussels, the last destination of her Europe tour. There she's scheduled to hold bilateral talks with the Belgian Prime Minister and leaders of the EU Commission and the European Council. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News, London.
North Korea has accused President Pak of acting without manners and making provocative remarks. The North's Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Fatherland was reacting to President Pak's recent comments to French daily Le Figaro, in which she said she was ready to hold a summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at any time to improve relations and to promote peace. The committee accused President Pak of talking about a summit with Kim while making provocative remarks against the regime. It urged the president to have, quote, good manners if she sincerely hopes to meet with Kim. Japan's financial leaders say recent rulings by Korean courts that ordered Japanese firms to compensate Korean victims of forced labor during Japanese colonial rule may hurt Korea's economic relations with Japan. Business associations, including the Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, issued a declaration on Wednesday which said all necessary compensation to Korean workers had been complete with the signing of 1965 Korea-Japan Treaty that normalized the two countries' diplomatic relations. The Japanese government retains the same stance and plans to take the case to the International Court of Justice should the Korean Supreme Court uphold the rulings in favor of victims. A Seoul government panel called the Japanese declaration absurd. The former chief of staff under late President Roh Moo-hyun, questioned by the prosecution over a misplaced inter-Korean summit transcript, says the president had ordered a revision to the summit minutes. Wrapping up a 9-hour questioning late Wednesday, Moon Jaein, also the former opposition presidential candidate, said he confirmed to prosecutors that President Roh had asked for revisions to the initial draft of the 2007 summit transcript. As for why the draft was never transferred to the National Archives at the end of Roh's term, Moon said there was no need since a final version was produced. Moon added the final copy not being transferred to the archives was nothing more than a mistake by the then Presidential Security Policy Secretary. The whereabouts of the summit document became a political hot potato after the ruling party accused the ex-president of conceding the inter-Korean maritime border to the north during the summit meeting.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations. President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday that Korea's brand value as a whole is among the best in the world. The Seoul-based Institute for Industrial Policy Studies estimates Korea's brand comes in at around 1.9 trillion US dollars. That's good enough to place it 9th among 39 countries surveyed. The findings took into account the competitiveness of the countries, including the amount of its exports over the past year. Also included was the familiarity of the countries based on a survey of around 2,000 respondents in some 60 nations. The United States topped the list with a brand value of $13.6 trillion, followed by Germany, Britain, and Japan, respectively. Over now to Samsung Electronics' long-term plans to drive growth. The Korean tech giant has pledged to pursue more acquisitions and raise its spending on research and development. Our Hwang Ji-hye has more.
Samsung Electronics, the world's biggest maker of smartphones, has laid out a plan to bolster its competitive edge and find new revenue sources. And that plan includes seeking more acquisitions. The announcement came during the company's first meeting with financial analysts and investors in 8 years on Wednesday. Samsung's chief financial officer Lee Sang-won said that the tech giant will cast a wide net in its M&A strategy so that it can take advantage of opportunities in various fields. Samsung has been setting its sights on fields like healthcare and medical equipment, which could open up new markets by converging them with the company's existing expertise in the IT field. The company has spent about $1 billion since 2010, taking over 14 companies. The tech giant also plans to concentrate more on investing in software, not just hardware, which is Samsung's traditional specialty. It will raise its spending on research and development to $14 billion this year, up $6 billion from 2010. While Samsung is targeting annual sales of $400 billion by the year of 2020, its executive team showed strong confidence in achieving that goal. It added that it does not see a slowdown in demand for its high-end mobile devices and said that combined sales of its Galaxy smartphone series would reach 100 million this year. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
The nation's display giant LG Display is still the #1 player in the global LCD panel market, yet again selling more panels than its competitors in the third quarter. Global market research firm Display Search says LG Display, which has been the market leader for 4 years, held a 26% share in the July to September period. That is up 1% from the previous quarter and came despite the overall industry contracting by 2%. The company also posted the most global sales in the period at roughly $4.9 billion, outselling domestic rival Samsung by $1.2 billion. Samsung was second in terms of market share and sales during the July to September period. The Seoul metropolitan government has announced its budget plan for 2014. Nearly 1/3 of the over $23 billion will be funded into welfare programs. But as our Han Da-eun reports, the city government is facing an uphill battle in its bid to finance the plans.
The city of Seoul has finished crunching the numbers. The metropolitan government has put aside a total of 24.5 trillion won, or $23.1 billion for next year, which is more than a 4% increase from spending this year. Officials say the budget for welfare programs saw the biggest increases. At about $7 billion, welfare accounts for about 32% of the total, in line with the central government's drive for boosting welfare nationwide. The main focus of Seoul City's welfare push is a free school lunch program, along with an expansion of national rental housing and an increase in child care centers. The city plans to build 80,000 more government-supported rental houses for low-income families, while expanding the free school lunch program to all 9th graders across the capital. Expanding the free school lunch program was one of Mayor Pak Ui Chun's key campaign pledges when he ran for office in 2011. Social overhead capital investments have decreased a bit, but Seoul will spend roughly $771 million on the ongoing construction projects for subway line number 9 and national highways. The Seoul city government, however, declared that it's facing an emergency budget situation. It spoke about the difficulties it faces trying to support national welfare programs, explaining how it had to sell massive city-owned assets and create municipal bonds to make up for insufficient welfare funds that amounted to more than $942 million. Mayor Pak also acknowledged that it was a painful process. Experts warn that the Seoul government should come up with an independent way to draw up a healthy balance sheet, saying that selling assets and borrowing money are only temporary solutions to a potentially chronic budget problem. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
The government is considering raising electricity prices, and the change could go into effect as early as this month. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy announced the plan Wednesday, but said it is still ironing out the details. The plan is part of a larger scheme to raise commercial electricity rates and encourage people to save power as the winter season approaches. The last price hike was in August of 2012 when rates went up by 4.9%. A new government health report shows lots of younger Korean men and women aren't taking good care of themselves. Doctors say young adults who eat or drink too much will end up paying a higher price later on in life. Our Pak Ui has more.
Jaein is your typical office worker in Korea, who often works and drinks late into the night. The 38-year-old public relations manager, however, has since turned a new leaf after being diagnosed with hypertension.
Since I have a lot of work dealing with people at night, I tend to be in a position where I drink and eat a lot. I know I have to exercise, but I really don't have the time or the chance to go.
Park Ji-hoo says she was shocked to hear from doctors that she suffered from a potassium deficiency.
I'm usually pressed for time during lunch, so I'm juggling meals and work. Since I can't eat what I want, I just end up eating instant foods.
The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say it's a sign of a growing health crisis among young adults across the country. According to a national survey conducted last year, men in their 30s showed the highest levels of unhealthy habits across all age groups, from excessive drinking to smoking. About half of the respondents between 30 and 40 were found to be overweight and lacking sufficient exercise. Meanwhile, women in their 20s were found to lead the most unhealthy lifestyles, with a quarter suffering from a lack of nourishment due to constant dieting. Mental health also suffered, with 46% saying they dealt with excessive stress on a daily basis. Doctors say people should do more to invest in their health or risk the consequences.
If you don't take care of even small issues arising from health screenings in your teens and 20s, then you may develop problems with your body in your 40s and 50s when you have to be socially active.
Osteoporosis, diabetes, and even heart attacks can be prevented by maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Eating a balanced diet, getting enough sleep, and exercising at least 3 times a week will go a long way toward prolonging your life and ensuring you're able to fully enjoy those extra years. PogU, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has expressed confidence the progress can be made in the Middle East peace talks. Speaking in Bethlehem Wednesday after what he called very good talks with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas, Kerry said Washington considers the Israeli settlement activity as illegitimate. He also said the Palestinians have never agreed as a matter of going back to the talks to accept the Israeli settlement. The previous round of talks in 2010 collapsed over the issue of the settlements, and this round has been stuck in limbo since July. Earlier in the day, after meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister and President, Kerry called for real compromises and hard decisions from both sides.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off in the world of baseball. Now, the season might be over, but the FA market has officially opened as 21 KBO players have been listed in the FA market. Now, the KBO have announced the 21 players that are available to be signed by their teams starting on the 10th to the 16th. And once the deadline passes, any other teams are free to sign the players. Meanwhile, some of the biggest names in the league will be available, including Kang Min-ho of the Lotte Giants, Lee Yong-gyu of the Kia Tigers, and Chung Gun-woo of the SK Wyverns. At the same time, Samsung Lions closer Oh Seung-hwan and Kia Tigers ace Yoon Sung-min is set to go overseas next season. Well, shifting over to the WK League, which has been at the center of an ongoing controversy regarding the 6 teams who threatened to boycott the season if Park Eun-sun of Seoul City Hall doesn't get banned from the league. Now, the team is set to end the controversy as they have announced that they will hold a press conference later today. Even Seoul City Mayor Park Won-soon have come out stating that something will be done to stop all this. Now, Park Eun-sun, who leads the league with 19 goals this season, has been accused of being a man, as many questioned her sex. Of course, this isn't the first time a female athlete was involved in such controversy, as Kester Semenya of Kenya was involved with a similar incident. And now moving on to some Wednesday night's KBL action as the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus crushed Busan KT Sonic Boom 78-49 after outscoring them 26-4 in the 4th quarter. So with that said, let's take a look at the other game that took place last night. Cheonju KCC Aegis taking on Wonju Dongbu Promi. Now a close game from the start, but KCC's Tyler Wilkerson puts up 11 points in the quarter as KCC takes a 24-20 lead before heading into halftime with a comfortable 45-39 lead. Now second half starts and Dongbu looking strong as Herbert Hill puts up 9 points in the quarter before Dongbu starts spreading the ball around more in the 4th quarter. Now exciting game here as the 4th quarter ends tied 83-83 and we're going over to overtime. Tongbu unable to use that momentum as Kang Byung-hyun lights it up in overtime as KCC hangs on to take this game 92-88, with rookie Kim Min-gu finishing off with 20 points. And moving over to some V-League action as KGC swept Korean Expressway 3-0 over on the women's side. Now, Nicole Fawcett's absence, the difference in the game as we now take a look at the men's side with Samsung Hwajae Bluefangs taking on LIG. Now, defending champions without Yo Woo-hyun this season, and that looks to be the difference as LIG penetrates Samsung's defense throughout the night. Samsung with only 50% attack rate on the night, but Thomas Edgar of LIG tearing it up on the night, scored 44 points, leading LIG to a 3-1 victory over the Samsung Hwajae Bluefangs. And finishing things off in swimming, Sun Yang of China, who was recently caught driving without a driver's license, has been suspended from the national team. The Olympic gold medalist, who has had his share of troubles with the national team before, has been suspended and will not be able to train or compete in any international competitions for the time being. Although the timetable hasn't been set for his return, many Korean fans wonder if he'll return in time to face off against Marine boy Park Tae-hwan during the 2014 Asian Games in Incheon. And with all that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning, I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather updates. Well, according to a solar calendar, today is Ipdong, which signifies the beginning of winter. But thankfully, Mother Nature is very generous enough to give us one more day of mild day for all the test takers for college entrance exam that's taking place nationwide. So expect a similar daytime highs as yesterday. But the Seoul and surrounding areas might receive rain showers in the morning hours. So right now, we're looking at a few clouds hovering over the central region, but all the rain and clouds will clear out as we go through the day, and full sun will come out behind the clouds. So you might think about going outside and enjoy the sun, but that's a bad idea. Remember, the level of dust particles are at its highest of this year, so try not to be outdoors, instead staying indoors if possible. Now tomorrow, we gotta notice much cooler morning lows. Temperatures will plunge to 4 degrees Celsius here in the Seoul and the surrounding regions. Well, that's 6 degrees lower compared to today. So we will wake up to one cold morning tomorrow, so be sure to bundle up before heading out. And it looks like we have rain in the forecast from Saturday afternoon to Sunday morning, and that round of rain will set the stage for a real cold winter early next week, as the daytime lows will dip down to near freezing point in the Seoul metro area. So keep that in mind and plan ahead for your weekend. And it's time to take a look at the readings for this afternoon. And today, the afternoon high in Seoul will make it to 15 degrees Celsius, which is 59 degrees in Fahrenheit, and Daegu and Gwangju will get up to 19 and 18 respectively, while Busan will see a high of 22. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will reach a 19 in the afternoon with partly cloudy skies, and Daejeon and Dokdo will top out at 17 and 16, while Mount Kumgang will make it to 6. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful day. And for those who are taking the college entrance exam, I wish you the best luck.
those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.